So many of the effects that we're having on the environment are fairly obvious, but sometimes the effect on the environment and other species can be unforeseen. There's a phenomenon described as the Serengeti effect. A lot of people have heard of the butterfly effect. Well, the Serengeti effect is a lot like it in context, but it's much more scientific in basis. Researchers in the Serengeti discovered that there were a lot of impacts that men were having on the environment that were unforeseen and unpredicted. For example, when they were vaccinating cattle for a disease that also affected wildebeest, they inadvertently expanded the population of wildebeest, which then increased grassland grazing and decreased natural incidence of fire. A lot of species that depended on that natural fire then went extinct. This is a phenomenon that's described across the globe, and one of the most iconic examples of it is the sea otter on the Pacific West Coast. Sea otters at the turn of the century were hunted almost to extinction for their pelts. And it turned out that sea otters were one of the main predators of sea urchins. Now, sea urchins' main food is the kelp forest. And guess what depends on the kelp forest? Just about everything else. So we ran into a situation of almost total ecosystem collapse. If you can see this photo, you can see what it looks like with and without sea otters. With sea otters present, you have a healthy kelp ecosystem. Without, besides having an army of very happy, well-fed urchins, you have very little else. And you run into a situation of almost an oceanic desert or entire ecosystem collapse. Now, we spent many decades trying to restore that balance, and it was one of the most successful restoration and conservation efforts that occurred within the United States. But what happens in areas where we're unable to restore that balance? What would happen if, say, the sea otter had gone extinct? What would those coastal areas look like today?